The dairy aisle is lying to you. Behind every shiny carton and smiling logo lurks a system that has turned milk, cheese, and yogurt into some of the most dangerous and misleading foods on your table. We're not talking about mild stomach aches. We're talking about products tied to hidden chemicals, recalls buried in silence contamination that sickened families and formulas engineered to stretch profit while stripping away nutrition. Foods that pretend to nourish, but instead gamble with your health. And here's the kicker. These aren't rare exotic items. They're the brands you grew up with, the ones in your kid's lunchbox, the ones sitting in your fridge right now. So today we cut through the illusion. 10 dairy foods you must avoid at all costs and 2 rare names that prove not everything is lost. By the end, you'll see the dairy aisle for what it really is, a battleground between trust and betrayal. Raw milk. Raw milk. 2 words that sound wholesome nostalgic. For generations, it's been sold as milk the way your grandparents drank it straight from the cow. Advocates call it pure, unprocessed, even a symbol of food freedom. But the record tells another story. Raw milk is among the riskiest dairy foods you can buy in America. The Centers for Disease Control has linked it to hundreds of outbreaks in recent decades. And not just stomach aches. We're talking Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria pathogens that can hospitalize healthy people in hours. Children, pregnant women, and the elderly are often hit hardest. The evidence is recent and sobering. In 2025, Pennsylvania warned consumers to throw out raw milk from Bayer's Organic Dairy after it tested positive for dangerous Shiga toxin-producing E. coli. Just months earlier in Florida, at least 21 people, including 6 children under 10, fell ill after drinking raw milk from a local farm. 7 ended up in the hospital. In 2024, Raw Farm LLC in California recalled all its raw milk and cream after H5N1 bird flu virus was found in its bottling plant. The year before, a salmonella outbreak tied to a California dairy sickened more than 170 people across 5 states, most of them kids, and some farms doubled down instead of changing. Amos Miller. Organic Farm in Pennsylvania built a loyal following until federal authorities tied its raw milk and cheese to multiple outbreaks of Listeria and E. coli. Rather than fix the problem, the farm framed regulators as enemies of freedom, keeping sales alive while customers landed in hospitals. So why do people still buy it? Because the marketing is powerful. Raw milk is painted as authentic, farm fresh, and the way it used to be. But history is clear. Pasteurization was created because raw milk once spread deadly diseases. Taking away heat treatment doesn't make milk noble. It makes it dangerous. Even raw milk cheeses carry risk. Some believe aging cheese for 60 days kills harmful bacteria. But research shows pathogens like E. coli can survive long past that window, lurking in soft and semi-soft cheeses until they reach your fridge. And behind the nostalgia lies politics. Raw milk advocates have spent years lobbying against safety rules, casting themselves as freedom fighters while brushing aside outbreaks. They call pasteurization laws government overreach, even as doctors treat preventable illnesses tied to their product. The toll is personal. Outbreak reports include parents who thought they were giving kids something healthier, only to end up in emergency rooms. The gap between promise and reality isn't just scientific, it's emotional. Raw milk may look pure in the bottle, but history and hospitals show it's pure risk in disguise. And here's the twist: when raw milk becomes soft cheese, the danger doesn't disappear. It multiplies. Dos queso fresco cotija en panela. Nowhere is the risk clearer than in queso fresco cotija and panela staples from taquerias to school cafeterias to family kitchens. These cheeses symbolize comfort, tradition, and togetherness. But in recent years, they've come to represent something else: how trust can be broken in the most ordinary foods. In 2024 and 2025, a company called Rizzo Lopez was forced to recall a wide range of Mexican-style cheeses after investigators tied them to a Listeria outbreak. The toll was sobering: more than 20 people hospitalized across several states, at least 2 lives lost. Families buying food for celebrations suddenly faced funerals. For communities where queso fresco is more than an ingredient, its identity on a plate, the betrayal cut deep. The science shows why. Listeria thrives in moist, soft environments. Queso fresco is the perfect toast. Its very freshness, what makes it taste appealing, also makes it fragile. Hard cheeses can resist bacteria, but soft varieties give pathogens room to spread. And pasteurization doesn't guarantee safety. Contamination can strike in plants during packaging or anywhere sanitation slips for even a moment. A safe batch can still become hazardous by the time it reaches the shelf. The deeper problem is how recalls are handled. In the US, most are voluntary. That means the brand itself announces them often quietly, a notice on a website. A PDF on a government page, maybe a line in local news. No national alerts, no loud announcements in stores. By the time regulators traced the Rizo Lopez outbreak, products had already been bought, stored in fridges, and served to families who never heard the warning. It feels like a cover-up even when it isn't. The system rewards compliance on paper, not prevention in practice. Companies can issue quiet recalls, meet the legal minimum, and keep selling. Meanwhile, those who rely on affordable cheese for daily meals, retirees, working parents, grandparents feeding kids carry risks they never agreed to. The emotional toll is heavy. Picture a grandmother serving queso fresco at Sunday dinner, only to learn weeks later that the cheese she trusted was tied to hospitalizations. These aren't statistics. They're families caught between cultural tradition and corporate neglect. Queso fresco was meant to bring people together. Instead, it has left too many families broken. And if a food this beloved can turn so quickly into a hazard, what about the luxury cheeses from Europe, Brie Camembert, the symbols of indulgence? Three Brie and Camembert? Walk into any upscale grocery store and you'll notice it right away. Behind the glass case sit the soft wheels wrapped in delicate paper names, written in elegant script Brie Camembert. They're not just cheeses. They're promises of heritage, sophistication, indulgence. For decades, buying Brie has felt like buying into a story, a touch of France, a bite of culture, a little luxury for your table. But here's the uncomfortable truth: prestige can rot. And with Brie and Camembert, it often does. The danger with these cheeses isn't only in the bacteria that may lurk beneath their soft rinds, it's in the way the entire system treats them as untouchable. Centuries of tradition are used as a shield, a way of saying, this is how it's always been done. The creamy texture, the earthy rind, the authentic method of letting the cheese bloom naturally, these same qualities are the loopholes that allow oversight to slip. Because who dares question something so celebrated? That's why the recalls you do hear about are so quiet. In recent months, Camembert at Wegmans and imported Brie from boutique distributors were pulled from shelves over contamination fears. But you probably didn't see it in a headline. There were no bold apologies, no visible alarms. Just PDFs, whispers, and products vanishing without explanation. The silence wasn't an accident. It was image control, and that's where the betrayal cuts deepest. People don't buy Brie only for taste. They buy it for reassurance. The higher price tag, the imported label, the French name, they create an illusion of safety. It feels like paying extra guarantees that someone somewhere made sure this food is better. But bacteria doesn't care about branding. It slips through cracks in the rind just as easily as it does in cheap cheese. The illusion is the product, not the food. Why does the system let it happen? Because luxury trades on myth. Retailers and distributors know that Brie's value is in perception. Admit flaws loudly and the spell breaks. So problems are managed quietly, delicately, the way you might cover a stain on silk. The cheese is still sold, the story is still told, and the consumer is left holding risk wrapped in paper and prestige. That's what makes Brie and Camembert dangerous in a way that goes beyond pathogens. It's not only what's inside the rind, it's the way centuries of reputation are used to excuse modern shortcuts, the way prestige itself becomes a smokescreen. Buyers believe they're bringing home authenticity. In reality, they may be bringing home fragility. Brie and Camembert were meant to elevate the table to make the ordinary feel special, but the cracks in their rinds mirror the cracks in the system, where image outweighs honesty, and where even the most celebrated names can't guarantee safety. And if the so-called jewels of the cheese world can hide flaws this easily, what do you think happens with processed slices that don't even pretend to be premium? 4. Processed cheese. Let's talk about Kraft singles in the world of processed slices foods that millions of Americans grew up on, grilled into sandwiches, melted onto burgers, packed into school lunches. They're marketed as convenient, nutritious, even wholesome. But here's the catch: by legal definition, they're not cheese. The Food and Drug Administration won't let Kraft call singles cheese. By law, it's labeled a pasteurized, prepared cheese product. The reason: too little actual dairy. What fills the rest are milk protein, concentrates, emulsifiers, and preservatives engineered to make something that melts like cheese but doesn't meet the standard. It's a product that mimics tradition without truly belonging to it. But here's where it gets deeper. This wasn't just about re-engineering food. It was about re-engineering profit. Real cheese takes time, space, and care. Processed slices take formulas that extend shelf life, lower costs, and guarantee consistency. Every extra month on the shelf, every fraction shaved off dairy content, every corner cut in aging, it all translates into billions saved and billions earned. By redefining cheese, Kraft created a new category where the margins were fatter than the slices themselves. That profit engine was powerful enough to change culture. Kraft singles weren't just sold in stores. They were pushed into school cafeterias, military rations, and low-income households. Not because they were the healthiest option, but because they were the cheapest to mass produce and the easiest to market as safe. Entire generations grew up believing these were real cheese grilled into sandwiches, layered in lunchboxes, comfort baked into childhood itself. Nostalgia became part of the business model. The product didn't just feed families, it manufactured loyalty. Even the scandals told the same story. In 2015, Kraft had to recall millions of packages after customers reported choking hazards. The thin plastic film on each slice wasn't peeling off properly. Symbolically, the packaging was sturdier than the food it protected. Yet sales kept roaring. The betrayal here isn't about hidden bacteria or sudden outbreaks. It's about the quiet monetization of trust. A slice sold as cheese that isn't cheese. A product marketed as nutrition, but designed first and foremost for the balance sheet. The genius wasn't in the recipe. It was in convincing people to pay for something cheaper than what they thought they were buying. And that formula: strip a product to its cheapest form, then inflate its image until people stop questioning it, became the playbook for the modern dairy aisle. Processed cheese showed how much money could be made from nostalgia. The next frontier showed how much more could be made from hope. That's where yogurts and probiotic drinks enter the picture. 5 yogurt and probiotic drinks. Processed cheese made billions by selling nostalgia. Yogurt and probiotic drinks took that playbook and rewrote it with something more powerful: hope. These aren't just snacks anymore, they're sold as solutions for digestion, for immunity, for kids' health. And that hope doesn't come cheap. Walk down a grocery aisle and you'll see it. Activia with digestive benefits, Yakult in tiny bottles promising balance, Danimals with cartoon mascots pushing health to kids, Chobani and Yoplait competing on protein and live cultures. The message: this isn't just food, it's medicine you can grab from the fridge. But yogurt began as something simple: fermented milk with natural cultures. The modern dairy industry hijacked that tradition, loading it with sugar and stabilizers, then wrapping it in the language of science. The result: dessert-like products priced like medicine, marketed as miracles. Here's the kicker: many flavored yogurts and probiotic drinks contain more sugar than soda. A small Danimals bottle tossed into countless lunchboxes packs 14 to 20 grams of sugar. That's nearly half a child's daily limit in one healthy serving. Chobani's fruit cups, 12 to 15 grams. Even light versions lean on artificial sweeteners that raise their own health questions. So why do people keep buying? It's not about flavor, it's about trust, or at least the illusion of it. These products are marketed almost like pharmaceuticals without ever being regulated like them. They use words like immunity balance and gut health to make ordinary milk sound like medical treatment. A spoonful to fix bloating, a bottle to shield kids from sickness, a probiotic shot to support an aging body. The science may be shaky, but the placebo is powerful. And then comes the health tax. Plain, unsweetened yogurt costs far less. But probiotics are now a multi-billion-dollar business because companies know this people will pay extra to feel safe. Fear and hope make better profit margins than milk and cultures ever could. It's not just theory. In 2010, Activia's parent company was fined millions by the Federal Trade Commission for overstating health claims. They promised digestive relief the science didn't back up. But even after the fine, Activia kept selling. Once hope becomes habit, regulation can't stop it. The emotional toll is real even if invisible. Parents hand kids sugary probiotic drinks believing they're helping. Seniors on fixed incomes spend more for bottles that may deliver little beyond sweetened milk. People with digestive troubles cling to routines that comfort more than they cure. The betrayal isn't dramatic like food poisoning, it's quieter. The comfort of thinking you're safer while corporations profit off the belief. That's the transformation. Yogurt went from ancient survival food to candy dressed as cure, from staple to health tax, from nourishment to placebo. They sold us hope in a cup. What we got was sugar water in disguise. 6. Ice cream. Ice cream is supposed to be the safest joy in your freezer. It's the food of birthdays, summer afternoons, and late-night cravings, not the food of recalls and funerals. But the truth is, some of the worst outbreaks in the dairy aisle haven't come from raw milk or suspicious cheeses. They've come from ice cream. And not because ice cream itself is inherently dangerous, but because it gets caught in the crossfire of a fragile global food system. Take Bluebell's infamous listeria outbreak in 2015. 10 hospitalizations, 3 deaths, all tied to contaminated ice cream. Not because the recipe changed, not because people handled it wrong at home, but because a single lapse in cleaning at one factory spread bacteria through entire production lines. Listeria is one of the few pathogens that thrives in freezing conditions. So the very thing people assume keeps ice cream safe, the cold is exactly what lets the contamination survive. But factory lapses are just one layer. The deeper story is how ice cream has become collateral damage in the supply chain that spans continents. A pint of cookies and cream may contain milk from one state, vanilla from Madagascar, cocoa from West Africa, and almonds from California. If just one ingredient slips through contaminated, whether it's a batch of nuts carrying salmonella or a swirl made with tainted caramel, the entire product is compromised. That pint in your freezer is only as safe as the weakest link in a chain stretched around the world. And the cracks show up again and again. In 2024, one company recalled cartons after plastic shards were found in mix-ins. Another pulled ice cream cakes after allergen mislabeling. Neither case happened because ice cream was inherently risky. They happened because hundreds of ingredients move through plants at high speed, and one mistake ripples into thousands of products before anyone notices. The real danger isn't that companies don't care. It's that the system is too big, too fast, and too fragmented to catch every flaw. A tank of cream, a shipment of flavoring, a run of packaging film, one error in any of them can slip downstream and end up in freezers across the country. By the time the problem surfaces, the damage is already done. What makes this fact sting is the innocence of the product itself. Nobody eats ice cream with suspicion. Nobody serves it at a party wondering about bacteria. It's the dessert that feels untouchable. That's why the emotional fallout hits so hard when recalls happen. Parents second-guess birthday cakes. Seniors look twice at the freezer aisle. Comfort food isn't supposed to carry fear. Basically, ice cream wasn't dangerous. It became dangerous because it sits at the end of a supply chain too fragile to guarantee safety. In that sense, every pint is a gamble, not on the taste, but on whether all the moving parts behind it held together this time. 7. Infant formula and milk powder. Infant formula isn't just another product. For millions of families, it's a lifeline, the only food their babies can survive on. Parents assume it must be the safest product in the world. But here's the truth. Formula is one of the most fragile, monopolized, and dangerous corners of our food system. And the ones paying the price aren't adults with choices, they're newborns with none. In 2022, Abbott Nutrition shut down its Sturgis, Michigan plant after Chronobacter bacteria was found inside. One factory out of many, yet it supplied nearly 40% of America's formula. When it went offline, shelves emptied nationwide within weeks. Parents drove hours hunting cans. Some turned to the black market where prices doubled. Others diluted bottles, risking malnutrition. This wasn't a natural disaster. It was one company's failure pushing the entire country into crisis. And it wasn't rare. The market is controlled by just a few giants: Abbott, Nestlé, Reckitt. Together they dominate shelves, hospitals, and WIC contracts. That concentration means no real choice. If one brand fails, millions are stranded. The system runs on a knife's edge, not because formula is hard to make, but because the industry has built a monopoly where fragility equals profit. The safety risks are built in. Powdered formula is never sterile, even sealed. WHO and CDC warn of Chronobacter, Salmonella, and heavy metals. But instead of investing in smaller, safer plants, companies consolidate into mega facilities to maximize margins. Billions go to marketing instead. Remember the Nestlé scandal formula, aggressively pushed in poor countries, discouraging breastfeeding, leading to preventable infant deaths. That wasn't a mistake. It was business strategy. The industry profits not from safety, but from dependence. And the cruelty is unique. Adults buying cheese or yogurt can switch brands. Newborns can't. For babies who rely on formula because of medical needs, adoption, or mothers forced back to work too soon, there is no alternative. That dependency gives corporations enormous power over the most vulnerable. When crises hit, families suffer. Companies pay fines so small they barely dent profits. The emotional toll is staggering. Parents mixing bottles at midnight shouldn't have to wonder if the powder is safe or if they'll even have enough for the week. Yet in 2022, families described driving state to state in panic. Hospitals rationed supplies. Mothers cried on live TV begging for formula. And through it all, the companies responsible insisted it was just a temporary disruption. That's why formula belongs on this list. Not because it's indulgent or mislabeled, but because it shows the coldest truth: survival itself can be monopolized. And if we can't trust the system to protect the youngest among us, what hope is left for the rest bridge? 10 names, 10 warnings, 10 examples of how the dairy aisle can betray your trust. But here's the good news. It's not all doom and gloom. There are still a few champions left: dairy products made the right way with honesty and care, that don't just avoid the pitfalls but actually set a higher standard. And they deserve the spotlight just as much as the others deserve a warning. 1. Greek yogurt. Authentic Greek yogurt is one of the rare dairy products that still carries tradition, nutrition, and integrity. Done the right way, it proves not everything has been hollowed out by the system. It isn't just regular yogurt with better branding. Greek yogurt is made by straining away excess whey, leaving a thicker, creamier product naturally higher in protein and lower in sugar. No gums, no starches, no fake thickness. The density comes from patience, not additives. That's why one plain cup delivers 15 to 20 grams of protein, about double the protein of regular yogurt, along with calcium, potassium, and key B vitamins like riboflavin and B12. For once, the nutrition panel matches the promise. And it offers more than protein. Authentic Greek yogurt is alive with beneficial cultures: Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Streptococcus, Thermophilus, and often Lactobacillus acidophilus. These probiotics support digestion balance, gut microbiota, and may even strengthen immune response. Unlike much of the dairy aisle where bacteria signals danger here, bacteria are the reason it works. Large studies link yogurt consumption to lower risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Thanks to its protein and thickness, Greek yogurt is especially effective at boosting satiety, helping people feel full longer and avoid overeating. That's why it appears in clinical nutrition guidelines, diabetic meal plans, and even hospital diets. Few dairy products have earned such trust across both science and culture. But not every container with Greek on the label is authentic. Some companies cut corners with gums or added protein powders to fake the straining process. Regulators are catching on. The US FDA has begun reviewing what qualifies as Greek or high-protein yogurt, and labs can now detect adulteration down to just 1%. Authentic versions stand apart, shortcuts can't hide forever. Beyond science, Greek yogurt carries cultural resilience. In Greece and across the Mediterranean, strained yogurt has been a staple for centuries, not a fad, but a daily food. It anchors tzatziki pairs with grilled meats and serves as breakfast with honey and fruit. Longevity speaks louder than marketing. When a food nourishes generations, it doesn't need reinvention. That's why Greek yogurt is a pillar of the Mediterranean diet, ranked year after year as the world's healthiest way to eat. It is rare proof that food can be both traditional and modern, both comforting and scientifically validated. 2. Organic whole milk. At the very end, it's only fair to close with balance. Not another trap or illusion, but a reminder that dairy, when done right, can still deliver what it promised from the start: pure nourishment. That's the story of organic whole milk. The difference begins on the farm. Organic milk doesn't come from cows crammed into industrial feedlots. USDA rules require organic herds to graze on pasture-eating grass instead of just grain. That means fewer synthetic fertilizers, fewer pesticides, and no growth hormones or routine antibiotics. The result isn't only happier cows. Studies show organic milk contains higher levels of omega-3s, more antioxidants like vitamin E, and a healthier fat balance than conventional milk. Nutritionally organic whole milk proves simplicity still works. 1 cup provides 8 grams of protein, plus calcium, potassium, and vitamin D when fortified. But what truly stands out is what's missing: residues of pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and unnecessary additives. For parents who want to give their kids milk without worrying about invisible chemicals, that difference matters. There's also digestibility. Lactose intolerance is real, but many people find organic whole milk, especially from grass-fed cows, gentler. Research suggests its fat profile may even aid digestion and reduce inflammation. It's not a cure-all, but it's a far cry from the ultra-processed dairy drinks filling supermarket shelves. The bigger story is trust. Organic certification isn't perfect, but it does mean stricter oversight than conventional milk. Farmers face audits, supply chains are inspected, and accountability is built into every carton. That's a world away from the voluntary recalls and vague compliance that define so much of the dairy industry. And then there's culture. For generations, milk symbolized nourishment poured over cereal, added to coffee shared at the family table. Industrial shortcuts made many consumers skeptical, but organic whole milk offers a way back to that sense of reliability. It's milk as it was meant to be: straightforward, nutritious, rooted in farming, that respects animals, land, and the people who drink it. Yes, it costs more. Organic milk often runs higher per gallon, reflecting the standards behind it. But for many families, that price buys not just nutrition, but peace of mind. In a food system crowded with shortcuts and gimmicks, this is one of the few products that restores confidence. The past 10 names showed us how dairy can go wrong. Greed cutting corners, safety sacrificed, and trust sold off 1 carton at a time. These weren't accidents. They were symptoms of a system willing to trade our health for profit. But we also proved it doesn't have to be this way. Authentic Greek yogurt and organic whole milk are reminders that real food made with care and respect still exists. They show us that integrity can survive even in an industry built on shortcuts. So take this list as more than warnings. Take it as motivation to question every label, to choose tradition over tricks, and to stop paying for lies. Because at the end of the day, dairy isn't just about what fills a glass or a bowl.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.